Who's going to be Ohio State's starting linebackers coming out of the bye week? Let's talk about it. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. I am JR here with you on the Ohio State channel for the Voice of College Football. Please do like and subscribe. You can find Mark and Tony and Steve every Wednesday, unless they need to do a different day, here at 11 a.m. And then you can also find me and Mike after games doing post-game shows for you. So check those out. We love doing those. Like and subscribe. All right, let's get into the linebackers. All right, so the way that I want to do this is I want to go through each and every linebacker so far and look at how many snaps they have played and then look at the stats with what they have done with those snaps. We are going to first look at the snaps which come from PFF. We're first going to look at the snaps which come from PFF, and these are all defensive snaps. None of these are special teams or anything like that. All of these are defensive snaps, and then we're going to look at stats from ESPN. I did not get the stats from PFF just because they do have those a little wonky sometimes, and there is some information in here that it doesn't always line up with what everybody else has from, say, an ESPN. So we're just going to go with what ESPN has for those snaps. I will probably mention pressures at some point if I do those come from PFF as well. Let's go ahead and go down the list. Number one, the guy with the most snaps, all the way to the guy with the least amount of snaps. We have had 7 linebackers play on the defensive side of the ball so far. So our number one guy with the most snaps has been Sonny Styles. He has had 92 snaps already on the season. He had 55 against Akron and 37 against Western Michigan. Against Akron, he had 6 total tackles, one of those being solo, the other 5 being assists. And then against Western Michigan, in his 37 snaps, he had 4 total tackles. All 4 of those were assisted. Also, Sonny did start both of these games. The only linebacker who has started both games this season. Obviously, he is putting himself in a different kind of role with not having the injury. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to Cody Simon, but he has the starting role in both of those games. Pretty safe to say Sonny is going to be starting against Marshall as long as there's no kind of injury or something like that we are not currently aware of. Arvell Reese is next with the second most snaps, which is crazy, right? True sophomore Arvell Reese really showing himself, and he has done a really, really good job with the snaps that he's been given. Against Akron, he had 32 snaps. Against Western Michigan, he had 20 snaps. That puts it all together for 52 snaps. And in those 52 snaps, his 32 that he had against Akron, he had 4 tackles, 3 solo, 1 assisted, and then against Western Michigan. And in those 20 snaps, he had 3 tackles, 2 solo, 1 assisted. If I've gained anything from watching Arvell, seeing him be used in both roles, he's been both Mike linebacker and Will linebacker. He seems like a very good blitzer. He seems like somebody who doesn't seem out of place out there at times, even when he's in that Mike linebacker role, but he's also done a good job of blitzing. He actually has 1 pressure on the season. He did not get home and get that sack like CJ Hicks and Cody Simon did. However, he did apply a pressure that was a stat that was on PFF. So good to see him getting that there, and he could be a very good pass rusher in addition to other guys, like I said, CJ Hicks and Cody Simon. Speaking of CJ Hicks, let's get to him next. He is the 3rd most snaps in the linebacking group so far. Started against Akron for 33 snaps, and then he did play against Western Michigan with 16 snaps, totaling in at 49 snaps for him, just 3 behind Arvell Reese. In his Akron game, where he had 33 snaps, he had 6 total tackles, 3 solo, 3 assisted. And then against Western Michigan, in his 16 snaps, he had 2 total tackles. Both of those were assisted. You did see him get about half as many snaps in that Western Michigan game that he did against Akron, but because of the next player we talk about, it might not necessarily have been bad play. It's just you're adding then another linebacker into the mix, and the backups did begin to get in sooner for the Western Michigan game than they did the Akron game. Speaking of another running back who got in and started, that would be Cody Simon. He did not play at all against Akron, was out with an injury, sounded like he wasn't really all that injured, but they were just kind of being cautious. Makes total sense. He did start against Western Michigan. He had 31 total snaps, 3 total tackles, 1 solo, 2 assisted. He also had a sack, and he had a pass deflection. So very, very encouraging to see a good game from Cody Simon. Only 31 snaps. When you get 3 tackles and on top of that a sack and a pass deflection, that's a pretty good day. About a month ago, James described Cody Simon this way, and I thought it was really interesting. He said 4 things about him. He said, the guy who you could put at Tim, at Mike, at Will, at Sam, you can move him all around. He also said he's the unquestioned leader of the group. He's the leader of the defense. He gets everybody lined up. Another thing he said was very technical. He has really good footwork, really clean footwork, which allows him to change direction and get off blocks and tackle well. And finally, in that quote, he said, the most overall linebacker, just because he can go anywhere and he can do anything. Sounds like this is the guy that James Laurinaitis is going to be leaning on most out of anybody else. But we still do have some younger guys who got in and saw time as well. Gabe Powers also got time with 10 total snaps. He had 5 against Akron, 5 against Western Michigan. In that game against Akron, we can all remember the interception that was popped up by, I believe, was Edric Houston, which he did take back for a touchdown. He had 1 tackle, which was a solo tackle in that game. Against Western Michigan, he had 5 snaps where he had 2 total tackles, and both of those tackles being solo tackles as well. James Laurinaitis said about him that he's pushing for more confidence, and Laurinaitis is helping him fix everything. He wants to be that fixer at that Mike linebacker role who's going to come in and help him do those things. Next is Payton Pierce. Actually, Payton Pierce has gotten in a little bit here. James Laurinaitis seems to be very excited about him. Now, he did not put up any stats with these snaps. He did have 5 snaps against Akron and 3 snaps against Western Michigan, totaling at 8. So no production yet, at least from what we have on ESPN. But he did get in there, showing confidence by James Laurinaitis to put him in there. And finally, Joey Velasquez comes in. He did not play against Akron, but he did get 1 snap against Western Michigan. Very cool for him to be able to get in there, coming over from that team up north. He's coming down here, and so far he has done himself a good enough job to at least get in for 1 snap on the defensive side of the ball, which is good for him. We love to see guys getting that time. Now, let's get into the question. Who do we think will start for Ohio State coming out of the bye week? I think you're going to see Cody Simon start at the mic, and you're going to see Sonny Styles start at the will. It only makes the most sense with the high praise that James Laurinaitis has given to Cody Simon, the well-rounded player that he is, how versatile he is, leader of the defense, all those things. A great, great game coming out of of the injury where he comes in against Western Michigan. He gets himself, like I said, a few tackles, a sack, pass deflection, very good stuff from him. And then Sonny Styles, who James Laurinaitis also raves about. I mean, 92 snaps. He started last year at safety. Now he's coming down to linebacker, closer to the box. That is something you have to get used to, right? When you're playing closer to the line of scrimmage, when you're in that box closer to the line of scrimmage, it is more difficult trying to read and react. You have to make sure that your first step is on point, because you lose a step, and that might be the difference between one guy just blowing right by you and getting to the end zone. So Sonny Styles definitely reacting better from what I've seen, and also from James Laurinaitis playing him as well. Nearly 100 snaps already against 2 opponents where the backups got in relatively early. Love to see that for Sonny Styles. I do anticipate he will be playing. I do anticipate we'll probably see Arvell Reese as well. Seems like Arvell Reese is the guy that's going to come in there at Mike linebacker if Cody Simon comes out for any reason, or you might move Sonny Styles over to Mike linebacker. You might put Arvell Reese over at the will position as well. CJ Hicks is going to get some time there as well. But it seems like, from what we've seen, it seems like Arvell Reese might be jumping CJ Hicks in the depth chart, and CJ Hicks might not be lower on the depth chart. I guess it could be different, but he is definitely seeing snaps more for his defined role as a pass rusher, and I think that limit is much less with Arvell Reese, at least from what we've seen with the snaps than what we have seen so far with CJ Hicks. Let me know what you think. Who do you want to be starting? Who do you want to be playing? Do you want to see Gabe Powers get time? You want to see Joey Velasquez get more time? Let me know. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts. I love the story of Arvell Reese, number 20, true sophomore, coming in here. Very cool to see him getting time and playing a good amount here in these first two games. I hope it continues against Marshall, but most of all, I hope it continues against Michigan State, Iowa, some of these better teams that we play. These are valuable reps for guys like Arvell Reese, who are going to have a role next year, and we're going to have to make sure we get them plenty of snaps, plenty of playing time, so that way they are not in shock when they come in to play for their very first game. They've done this, they know this, and it's not going to be that big of a deal for them because they are confident in themselves. Let me know what you think, everybody. Check me out over at JR's Rankings on Twitter. You can also check me out with my Big Ten Huddle, the Big Ten Huddle. That's my Big Ten football and basketball content. So if you want to know more about the Big Ten, go check us out over there. We would greatly appreciate it. Have a good one, everybody.